Something is shifting for Virgo. Not loudly, not dramatically, not in the way that would make headlines or demand immediate attention. It is happening quietly, the way things always happen for you. Beneath the surface, in that deep private world inside your mind where you process everything before you ever allow it to show on your face. You have always been this way. You feel things fully and completely, but you rarely let the outside world see just how deeply everything moves through you. Right now, something is moving through you that is unlike the ordinary flow of your daily thoughts. It is not panic. It is not exactly excitement. It is something in between. A quiet hum of knowing that the chapter you have been living in is beginning to turn its final pages. You have felt this before perhaps, but not quite like this. Not with this particular combination of stillness and readiness. The analytical part of your mind, that sharp, tireless, extraordinary mental engine that never truly stops running, has been picking up signals. Small ones, subtle ones, the kind that other people might walk right past without a second glance. But you are not other people. You notice everything. And lately, what you have been noticing is telling you something unmistakable. A turning point is near. These are the 11 signs that confirm it is already on its way. Sign 1. Your mind will not stop analyzing a specific situation. There is something on your mind right now. You know exactly what it is. It is that one thing you have returned to again and again, the situation, the question, the memory, or the possibility that your brain simply refuses to file away and mark as resolved. You have thought it through from every angle you can imagine. You have weighed the facts, considered the alternatives, reviewed the timeline, examined the details, and yet here you are, coming back to it again. Maybe it is a relationship that never quite reached the conclusion you expected. Maybe it is a decision that has been sitting at the edge of your awareness, waiting to be made. Maybe it is something that happened a long time ago that still does not feel entirely settled. Whatever it is, your mind has been circling it the way a careful, precise thinker circles a problem that matters, with patience, with rigor, with a refusal to accept a surface-level answer when the deeper one is still available. For Virgo, the mind is both the greatest gift and the greatest challenge. You are wired for analysis. You were born with a mental precision that most people will never fully possess. You can spot the flaw in an argument, the gap in a plan, the inconsistency in a story, in moments that leave others still reading the first line. That precision serves you extraordinarily well in life. It has helped you solve problems that seemed unsolvable, navigate situations that seemed impossible, and build a reliability that the people around you depend on deeply. But that same precision can also trap you inside a loop when the situation at hand is not purely logical. When it involves something emotional, something uncertain, something that cannot be fully resolved through thinking alone. What your mind is doing right now is not a malfunction. It is a signal. The fact that you cannot stop returning to this particular situation means there is something in it that has not yet been seen clearly enough. There is a piece of this puzzle you have not quite picked up yet, and your extraordinary mind knows it, even if the conscious part of your awareness has not identified exactly what that piece is. A turning point is near precisely because you are being guided to look one more time, not to rehash what you already know, but to find the layer beneath the layer. Virgo, your mind does not cycle like this without reason. It cycles like this when the answer is close, when the clarity is almost there. When you are one honest, courageous look away from the understanding that changes everything. Do not fight the loop. Trust it. There is something in it for you that is almost ready to surface. The very fact that your mind keeps returning here tells you that your turning point is not behind you. It is directly ahead. The thoughts that will not leave you alone are not punishment. They are preparation. Every time you have returned to this situation in your mind, you have refined something. You have gotten a little more honest. A little more clear, a little less afraid of what the truth might actually be. And that process, slow, methodical, deeply personal, is exactly how Virgo moves toward transformation. Not in sudden leaps, but in careful, considered steps that look ordinary from the outside but represent profound inner movement. You are almost at the step that changes the direction entirely. Sign 2. The details you once overlooked are now speaking to you with remarkable clarity. Virgo is known for seeing what others miss. Your attention to detail is not a quirk or a habit. It is a fundamental part of how your mind works. You process information at a level of granularity that most people simply cannot access. You notice the small word someone chose instead of the obvious one. You notice the slight hesitation before an answer. You notice the pattern in what keeps happening, even when the circumstances keep changing. This is one of your greatest strengths, and it has served you well throughout your life. But something interesting is happening right now. Even for you, someone who already notices far more than average, the details are speaking more loudly than usual. Things that you had briefly registered and filed away are now standing up and asking to be looked at again. This is not paranoia. This is not anxiety doing what anxiety does by turning small things into enormous ones. This is something different, something calmer, cleaner, and more purposeful. It feels less like alarm and more like illumination. The details that are rising into your awareness are not frightening you. They are informing you. They are handing you pieces of a picture that is becoming more complete with each passing day. And as someone who has always trusted analysis over guesswork, you know the difference between noise and signal. What you are receiving right now is signal. Clear, consistent, deliberate signal. Think about what has been catching your attention recently. A comment someone made that seemed casual but lodged itself in your memory. A repeated pattern in how a situation keeps unfolding. A number, a date, a small coincidence that happened more than once. A feeling about a specific person or place or decision that your logical mind could not quite explain but your deeper knowing could not quite dismiss. These are not accidents. Virgo, the part of you that is most deeply connected to intelligence, not just mental intelligence but the wider intelligence of your intuition and your experience, is sorting through everything you have ever observed and pulling out what matters now. When the details begin to speak with this kind of clarity, it is one of the most reliable signs that a turning point is near. Because what clarity does is prepare you. It is the step that comes just before the movement. You do not make real, lasting change in confusion. You make it in clarity. And the fact that clarity is arriving, even in small and quiet ways, means that the moment of real movement is approaching. Trust what you are seeing. Trust the details. Trust your ability to discern what matters from what does not. That ability is one of the most powerful things about you, and right now it is sharpening itself in preparation for something genuinely significant. The details you once overlooked were not overlooked because you missed them. They were set aside because the time to use them had not yet arrived. That time is approaching. Sign 3. Your body is carrying tension in places that tell you something needs to change. Virgo is one of the signs most deeply connected to the physical body, to health, to the relationship between what is happening inside and what shows up in the physical experience of being alive. You are not someone who ignores the body. If anything, you pay more attention to it than most. You notice small shifts in how you feel, you track patterns in your energy and your health, you understand intuitively that the body is communicating something at all times. And right now, your body is communicating something clearly. There is tension somewhere, in your shoulders, your jaw, your chest, your stomach, your lower back. It may have been there long enough that you have started to think of it as normal, but it is not normal. It is a message. Your body holds what your mind has processed, but your life has not yet resolved. When a situation in your life, a relationship, a decision, a pattern, a longing, reaches the point where it genuinely needs to change but has not yet changed, the body begins to carry that gap. The tension you are feeling is the physical signature of something that is asking for resolution. It is not your enemy. It is your most honest messenger. It is the part of you that cannot perform wellness, cannot pretend things are fine when they are not, cannot be polite or modest or undemanding the way you sometimes are in the rest of your life. Your body is simply telling you the truth, and the truth is that something needs to shift. For Virgo, who tends to internalize so much, who carries the weight of analysis and self-criticism and responsibility without ever truly setting it down, the body becomes a kind of pressure gauge. And right now, that gauge is reading higher than your baseline. That reading is meaningful. It is pointing you toward exactly what the turning point is about. Look at where the tension lives in your body. Ask yourself honestly what situation or area of your life that part of your body is associated with for you. The answer you find will not be a coincidence. A turning point is near partly because the body has reached the point where it is no longer willing to simply carry what has not been addressed. The discomfort you feel is not a punishment. It is a threshold. Your body is telling you that the time for continued holding has passed. The time for the shift has arrived. And because Virgo is deeply health conscious and deeply committed to genuine well-being, rather than its surface appearance, this message from your body is one you have the wisdom to hear. You are closer to the other side of this than you may currently believe. Sign 4. Something you have been preparing for, even unconsciously, feels almost ready. Here is something that is true about Virgo that almost no one from the outside fully sees. You are almost always in preparation mode. Even when your life looks calm and routine from the outside, there is a part of you that is always getting ready, always refining, always building the skills, gathering the understanding, working through the processes that will eventually make you ready for the next thing. You are a preparer by nature. It is woven into who you are. And while that tendency has sometimes kept you in the preparation phase longer than was strictly necessary, because for Virgo the preparation is never quite finished, the readiness is never quite complete enough, it has also meant that when you do step forward, you are genuinely prepared in ways that others often are not. Right now, something you have been preparing for, perhaps for longer than you have consciously recognized, is beginning to feel almost ready. Not perfectly ready. Virgo knows that nothing ever arrives at the place of perfect readiness, because the perfectionist in you will always find one more thing to refine. But there is a difference between the endless preparation that is driven by fear of stepping forward and the natural, organic sense of readiness that begins to settle when the preparation has genuinely done its work. What you are beginning to feel now is the latter. It is quiet. It is not announcing itself with fanfare. But it is there, a sense that the thing you have been building toward is closer than it has ever been. This could be a project, a relationship goal, a life change, a creative expression, a professional step, or something deeply personal that has been living in your private hopes for a long time. Whatever it is, your inner knowing is beginning to signal that the preparation phase is winding down and something new is about to begin. A turning point is not just about something difficult shifting. It is also about something wonderful arriving. And for Virgo, who has been preparing quietly and diligently and thoroughly, what is arriving is worthy of all that preparation. Sign 5. People from your past are reappearing in ways that feel purposeful rather than random. Something has been happening in your relational world that your perceptive mind has likely already noted. People from earlier chapters of your life, some you have thought about often, some you had almost forgotten, have been showing up again. Perhaps literally, through a message or an unexpected encounter. Perhaps in a subtler way, through a memory that arrived with unusual clarity, a dream that featured a familiar face, or a moment where someone in your present life said or did something that reminded you strongly of someone from your past. These reappearances are not random. They never are for Virgo, who tracks patterns and connections with a precision that others rarely match. When the past begins to resurface in these purposeful ways, it is typically because a cycle is completing. Something that was left unresolved, not necessarily in a dramatic sense, but in the quiet, private sense of something that never quite reached its natural ending, is seeking its completion. The people who are reappearing carry something with them. Not necessarily the relationship itself, but the reflection, the lesson, the quality that the connection once held for you. They are arriving now because the turning point ahead of you involves an integration of what was with what is becoming. You cannot fully step into the new chapter without first making peace with the old one. And making peace does not always require action. Sometimes it simply requires acknowledgement. Seeing clearly what was, feeling it honestly, and releasing it from the grip of unfinished thinking. Virgo processes everything deeply, and the things processed most deeply are the things that involved real feeling, real care, real disappointment, real hope, real connection. The faces and situations from your past that are showing up now were part of your deepest processing. They mattered. What is happening now is that the processing is reaching its final stage. And on the other side of that completion, there is a spaciousness that will allow something new to enter your life in a way that it could not while the past was still filling the space. If what you are hearing feels accurate, know that it could happen if you applied this energy consistently for 21 consecutive days. That is the 21-day challenge pinned at the top of this channel. It is built around daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you are tired of staying in the same cycle, that structure is exactly what has been missing. Sign 6. The standards you hold for your own life are rising, quietly but unmistakably. There is a very specific kind of restlessness that Virgo experiences when growth is imminent. It is not the kind of restlessness that comes from dissatisfaction alone. It is the kind that comes from an inner rising, a quiet but clear expansion of what you know you are capable of, and therefore what you are willing to accept from yourself and from your life. You may have been noticing this lately. The things that once seemed acceptable, the level of connection, the quality of work, the nature of your relationships, the way your days are structured, are beginning to feel insufficient. Not because you have become ungrateful or demanding, but because you have grown and your standards have grown with you. Virgo is perpetually in the process of self-improvement, not because you are never good enough, but because you have an inherent drive toward excellence that is part of your deepest nature. You do not settle for the approximate when the precise is available. You do not settle for the surface understanding when the deeper one can be reached. And you do not, when you are truly growing, settle for a life that is smaller than what you are becoming. The rising of your standards right now is not something to apologize for or shrink away from. It is one of the clearest signals that a turning point is near. Because turning points do not happen in the absence of desire. They happen when the gap between where you are and where you know you belong becomes wide enough that staying still is no longer comfortable. The standards you are beginning to hold for your own life are not unrealistic. They are simply honest. They are the honest reflection of what you have learned, what you have given, what you have endured, and what you have become through all of it. You have earned the right to expect more. From your circumstances, from the people in your life, and from the way you treat yourself. Let those rising standards guide you. They are pointing you in exactly the right direction. Sign 7. A restlessness has settled in that your usual routines cannot soothe. Virgo finds genuine comfort in structure and routine. This is not something to be embarrassed about. The order that you create in your daily life is not rigidity. It is the scaffolding that allows you to function at the high level that you consistently do. Your routines hold you. They give you the ground beneath your feet when the rest of life feels uncertain. And because of this, when something is so persistent, so alive in you that even your most reliable routines cannot quiet it, that is significant. That is worth paying attention to with full seriousness. The restlessness you have been feeling lately is not something that your morning rituals or your careful plans can resolve. You may have tried. You may have organized something, completed something, structured something, hoping that the familiar satisfaction of order and completion would settle whatever is stirring inside you. But it has not settled. It keeps moving beneath the surface, this feeling that something more is asking for your attention and your willingness. It is not telling you that something is wrong. It is telling you that something is ready. There is a difference, and Virgo, who reads subtle differences with extraordinary precision, can feel that difference even when the words for it are not yet fully formed. Restlessness of this particular quality is one of the most reliable indicators that a turning point is imminent. The routines that sustained you through the previous chapter are doing their job, but their job was to hold you steadily in place while you prepared for this moment. Now the moment is arriving, and something in you knows that the routines, as wonderful as they are, cannot take you through a doorway that requires you to step into new territory. The restlessness is the invitation. It is asking you to listen to something larger than your schedule. You are ready to hear it. Sign 8. You feel called to let something go that you have been holding onto out of habit rather than genuine need. Virgo is loyal. This is one of your most beautiful qualities. Once you have committed to something or someone, once you have decided that this person, this path, this belief, this way of doing things deserves your dedication, you hold on with a steadiness and a faithfulness that very few can match. That loyalty is not something to question. But there is a particular kind of holding on that is not loyalty. It is habit. It is familiarity. It is the subtle fear of the empty space that would remain if you release what you have been carrying. And right now, something in you is beginning to recognize the difference between the things you hold because they genuinely serve you and the things you hold simply because you have held them for so long that release feels unfamiliar. This could be a belief about yourself that no longer reflects who you actually are. It could be a version of a relationship that has long since evolved beyond what you are still trying to maintain. It could be a responsibility that others could and should carry, but that you took on because that is what you do. It could be a story about what you are capable of, or what you deserve, or what is possible for you. A story written in an earlier chapter that your current self has outgrown. Whatever it is, the calling to release it is a profound sign of your turning point. Because the new chapter has weight and substance and beauty, and it needs room. The thing you have been holding out of habit rather than genuine need is occupying exactly the space that something better is trying to enter. You do not have to release it dramatically. Virgo rarely does anything dramatically. You can let it go in the quiet, careful, deliberate way that is native to you. But let it go. The turning point is waiting on the other side of that release. Sign 9. Small signs are stacking up in a pattern your sharp mind cannot dismiss. You have been noticing things. Small things, perhaps, that individually might seem like coincidence or imagination. But they are not happening individually. They are happening in a pattern. And Virgo, whose mind is one of the most pattern-aware, pattern-recognizing minds in existence, does not miss a pattern. You may have been telling yourself to be logical about it. You may have been applying your characteristic discernment and telling yourself not to read too much into things. But the pattern keeps presenting itself, doesn't it? The same message arriving through different sources. The same theme appearing in different conversations. The same number, the same word, the same kind of moment repeating itself with a frequency that feels deliberately placed rather than random. When the universe wants to communicate something to Virgo, it does not shout. It knows that Virgo hears the quiet signals most clearly. It sends the message in the language you speak most fluently. Through detail, through pattern, through the accumulation of small, precise, consistent signals that build into something undeniable. And what is building for you right now is undeniable. The pattern you have been seeing is real. It is pointing at something specific. And the turning point it is pointing at is genuine. Trust the pattern. Trust your ability to see it. Not everything that cannot be explained in purely logical terms is outside the domain of intelligence. In fact, some of the most intelligent things a mind can do is recognize the signal within the noise, and that is exactly what you are doing. The signs are stacking up because the turning point is close enough that the universe is sending repeated confirmations. You do not need more evidence. You simply need to trust what your extraordinary mind is already telling you it sees. If this message is resonating with your sign right now, trust that it is not a coincidence. When the universe wants to speak to you, it sends exactly the right signal at exactly the right moment. And you are here because you needed to hear this today. Your support, whether as a subscriber or as a member of this community, is what keeps these messages alive. The ones that touch hearts, awaken minds, and transform lives. If this video has been making sense to you, drop in the comments the day you were born. Let us keep going. Sign 10. An area of your life that has been stagnant is beginning to show signs of movement. There is an area of your life that has felt stuck for long enough that you may have quietly begun to accept the stagnation as simply the way things are. Perhaps it is your career, your finances, a relationship, your creative life, your health, or your sense of purpose. Whatever it is, there has been a persistent sense of stillness. Not the peaceful kind of stillness, but the kind that feels like something waiting, something suspended, something that has not yet found its way forward. And you, being a Virgo who functions best when there is clear progress and clear direction, have felt that stagnation more acutely than you may have admitted to anyone around you. Something is beginning to change in that area. You may not be able to see it fully yet. You may only be sensing it. A slight loosening, a small opening, a tiny movement where there was previously none. Do not dismiss that sensing as wishful thinking. Virgo's sensory and analytical systems are too finely calibrated for wishful thinking to produce this specific feeling. What you are feeling is real. The movement that has been absent is beginning. The frozen thing is beginning to thaw. The stagnant water is beginning to flow. Turning points, by their nature, do not announce themselves all at once. They begin with the smallest possible movement. A single word that shifts a conversation. A single decision that opens a door. A single moment of honesty that changes the entire texture of a relationship. You are at the beginning of that movement right now. The area of your life that has felt stuck is about to become the area of your life where everything changes. Pay attention to the small signs of movement. Nurture them. Give them your careful, patient, attentive energy. What is beginning to move needs your trust more than it needs your doubt. Sign 11. Something in the deepest part of your knowing says this time something is genuinely different. And then there is this final sign, which is the most powerful of all the 11, because it is not something you can explain through logic, and it is not something that came from any external source. It is something that lives in the deepest, quietest place inside you. The place beneath the analysis, beneath the worry, beneath the self-criticism, beneath all the careful, methodical thought. It is the place where you simply know things. And what you know right now, in that deepest and most honest place, is that this time is different. You have felt turning points before, or what seemed like turning points, and they did not always deliver what they seemed to promise. So you have learned to be careful. You have learned to hold your hope lightly and maintain your discernment. That caution is wise and it is yours to keep. But this time, beneath the caution, there is something else. A steadiness. A certainty that does not have an argument behind it but is more solid than most things with arguments behind them. A knowing that what is coming is not the same as what came before, that the chapter turning now is turning into something genuinely new and genuinely better. Virgo's inner world is rich and complex and profound, far more than anyone watching from the outside ever truly sees. In that inner world, you have sat with this feeling long enough to know that it is real. Not wishful thinking. Not the kind of hope that arrives from wanting something badly enough. The kind of knowing that arrives when the universe has been preparing something for you for a long time, and the time has finally come for it to arrive. Trust that knowing. Trust yourself. Trust that this time what you sense is exactly what it appears to be. If this message resonated with your sign, trust that it is not a coincidence. When the universe wants to speak to you, it always sends exactly the right signal, and you are here because you needed to hear this today. Your support as a subscriber or as a member of this community is what keeps these messages alive. They are the messages that touch, awaken, and transform. If this video made sense to you, leave in the comments the day you were born. There is something that Virgo deserves to hear. Something that the noise of daily life and the volume of your own internal critic often drowns out completely. You have given so much. You have thought so carefully. You have worked so hard, prepared so thoroughly, served so faithfully, and held so much for yourself, for the people you love, for the standards you believe in, that sometimes the sheer weight of what you carry becomes invisible to you because you have carried it for so long. But it is not invisible to the universe. Nothing you have done in quiet dedication has gone unseen or unrewarded. Turning points for Virgo do not come as sudden explosions of fortune. They come as the gradual, steady, deeply satisfying arrival of what was always being built toward. They come as the moment when all the preparation finally meets the opportunity it was designed for. They come as the clearing of fog that reveals a path that was always there but not yet fully visible. That is what is coming for you now. The fog is lifting. The path is becoming clear. And everything you have done, every careful step, every honest analysis, every choice you made in alignment with your deepest values, even when it was difficult, has been leading you here. These 11 signs are not predictions from the outside. They are reflections of what is already alive and moving within you. They are the confirmation that what you have been sensing is real. The turning point is not a fantasy. It is the next chapter of a story that has been building with remarkable care and purpose toward exactly this moment. And you, Virgo, with your sharp and beautiful mind, your deep and faithful heart, your extraordinary capacity for patience and precision and genuine love, are exactly the person that this turning point was made for. Do not talk yourself out of it. Do not find the flaw in the hope. Do not apply your analytical powers in the service of doubt when they are so much more powerfully deployed in the service of becoming. You have been ready for longer than you know. The universe has been ready for even longer than that. And now, finally, the two readinesses have found the same moment. Step forward, Virgo. This time, everything really is different.